Good evening, YouTube. This is Kayleen Stern coming at you with my regular Sunday night stream. And first off, I'll let you know that I may not stream next Sunday. It all depends on what time I get back from camp, because I will be camping next weekend. And that all depends on what time my driver gets me back here. So if I'm here early enough, then I will go ahead and stream, but otherwise I may not have one next Sunday. But anyway, tonight I have a Menu 22 from 2018. This is packed by MRE. There's the date code. And those that are still not familiar with the way US MRE date codes work, is the first digit denotes the year. And if it has to be 2018, because 2008 the bag style was completely different, and this menu was not in existence. I don't think, not to my knowledge. So it would have to be 2018. There's Mike and Enfos in the house. Thanks for dropping in. And this is packed by MRE. So this will have the inner bag. Sometimes Sopaco uses it. Warnick never does. But this is one of the 3 bag design styles that all 3 will use. There's one where, the MRE goes across the middle like this. There's one where it's at an angle, and the other where it's a top, and it actually depicts 2 people sitting doing something, whereas these other 2, you don't have that. These peelable seals sometimes work, sometimes they don't. And it looks like this one might have gotten sealed or cut above the seal from the previous bag, because when these are packed, this is a whole tube of bags. And then they're sealed at one end. They're filled and then sealed at the other. And it looks like that the seal for the top end was done above where it should have been cut off, or it was cut off where it should have been sealed. But I just took it apart. So we'll see if this peelable seal works. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And I have put my thumbnail through this plastic. My right thumbnail chipped, so I had to cut it off. And it looks like I'm going to be putting my thumb through the plastic again. Or maybe not. Nope, looks like it's going to work this time. See here, the outer MRE bag, which will serve as my trash bag. And this is the inner wrapper. Sometimes these can be vacuum sealed, and sometimes not. And sometimes these inner bags can be less than cooperative. There we go. So this is the Asian beef strips with vegetables. I will add the vegetables to the title because when I'm doing these, I can't put the entire title on. And then here is the sleeve, which has the nutritional information. And then just some ration stuff, advice on the other side of the sleeve. And out in the field, what you would normally do you would take the FRH, put the water in it, put your retort pouch in it, and then fold the top over, stick it in here. Whereas when these used to have the boxes, you would stick the whole thing in the box. Of course, I don't use the FRH because I'm at home. I can boil it, so we have a second retort. Applesauce with raspberry puree. So this will be a little bit darker than the usual applesauce. Patriotic sugar cookies. And by the sound of them, they sound like they have taken a hit. A rare find, chunky peanut butter. Usually it's the smooth peanut butter, but occasionally you'll get the chunky peanut butter. Milk chocolate cocoa beverage powder. And I'm feeling something kind of powdery has escaped something. I'm not sure what that is. So that will be the hot drink for tonight. That will go in my foreign MRE mug. White wheat snack bread. Got the spoon, which I don't use because I use my foreignmre.com fork. Grape jelly. See, there's James Ortiz here. Thanks for dropping in. And the last thing out of this inner bag is the accessory pack, which is a little lighter because it does not have the coffee in it because they put the cocoa in here. You do get a drink powder, which is the cranberry grape. That will go into the drinking jar. You get the rear roll. Get a packet of salt. Cinnamon gum. The cinnamon gum is always differentiated from the peppermint gum by the red side of the wrapper. And the wet wipe. So no sugar, no coffee, no creamer. These are normally meant for like a 20 ounce or 500 ml bottle, but I just choose to mix it up in my drinking jar. But these sugar-free ones, which this one is, the artificial sweetener is more concentrated, so you don't need as much of it to get the effect. But one good thing about them, they are much easier to mix up. Kind of a weird purplish color. So I can go ahead and mix that up after I get my water in here for my cocoa. Out in the field, you would mix this in this pouch because this is the shaker pouch. But at home, for the sake of these streams, I just go ahead and pour it into the cup. I'm not quite sure what that powdery stuff was that I was feeling on some things. I didn't feel it on everything. But I'm going to go put this into the pot that's on the stove. And then I will come back with the water for the cocoa mix. And then I'll go ahead and get everything else opened up and I'll mix up the cran grape. I'll be right back. I just took the kettle back into the kitchen just to get it out of the way. I'll go ahead and put that back there. This should remind you of the Ocean Spray cran grape. There's still a little bit of water left in the bottle. I went ahead and added just a little bit more after getting it all mixed up. So there is not a whole lot to this meal. You got the snack bread, you got the cookies and the applesauce. Time to see how bad of a hit these cookies took. Now, these pouches are designed for on the go, and the applesauce is a little bit runnier. So if you had to, you rip this off, and you could just suck this right out of the pouch. I can smell the raspberry scent off of that. So here's a better look at a date code. 250th day of 2018. Oxygen absorber. So this is a pretty big piece. It's pretty thick. There is Quint in the house. Thanks for dropping in. I'm going to check the chat, see if I missed anybody else slipping in. Looks like that's it. So sorry about the shakiness. It's just the way this foam mount is. So for those that just came in, this is 2018. Asian style beef strips with vegetables, packed by Merqual. So I got milk chocolate cocoa mix. I got busted up patriotic sugar cookies. Spicy tuna rolls is here. Thanks for dropping in. This is the sugar-free cran grape drink mix. And I got the raspberry applesauce, grape jelly, and chunky peanut butter. So not too often you see the chunky peanut butter. So I'm giving that a bit of a need. The chunks can sometimes be very small particles of peanut. But you still might want to make a little bit bigger hole than you otherwise would when you're opening up these packets. So that is the peanut butter. I didn't do a great job of opening this packet, but that's okay. Yeah, that's... I'm guessing it fits into whatever tracking program might be used. I could be wrong. The Canadians, they use 2 digits for the year. Yeah, gear grinding 19 is here. Thanks for dropping in. I just put those over here. So there is the grape jelly. So thanks for dropping in. And next Sunday, I may not be on here because I may not be back from camp yet. That will be up to my driver. But there will be videos. Yep. Yeah, that's okay. I just didn't, I don't know if you're in here if I don't see something in the chat. Because I'm doing this on my phone, I can't see a lot that I would normally see if I were using a computer with a webcam. I don't have a webcam set up with the laptop, plus it would be difficult for me to use a laptop to stream anyway. With a desktop, it would be much easier because I can position the monitor where I want, whereas a laptop, I can't do that. That's one thing about laptops. You cannot separate the monitor from the keyboard. Yeah, they're great for travel, but for someone who has to set things up in a particular manner, a laptop can be difficult. But I'm very thankful to have it since both of my desktops that I do have here crapped out on me. And a laptop that I had that was a refurb that someone had given me several years prior to me moving here, that one no longer works, but they do serve a purpose as basically power banks. So anyway, I am going to go back to the kitchen. I'm going to get the main out, so I wish I had some rice to put it on top of, because, you know, when you have Asian food, you usually have rice. And although I could have gotten one of my bags of instant rice that I've gotten from Minotaur Trading Company to put down here, I decided not to do that. Now, if I ever get this menu again, then I will do that, and I will do it the proper Asian way of having the meat and veggies and the sauce on top of the rice, which is usually how it's meant to be eaten. But it is what it is. So anyway, I am going to go get that main, and I'll be right back. I am back. I have a paper towel that I'm using to dry it off, so it'll be easier to handle. And I just carried in this, which is a dome lid that goes with my regular kitchen cookware. Oops. My phone mount got knocked. So my phone dipped. So sorry about that. Let me, there we go. It sounds very liquidy in there. So the tear notch goes across this way, and so I like to shake the food down. Oh, speaking of foreign MRE, look who it is dropping that super chat saying hi to everybody. I do appreciate that super chat. Thanks for dropping in. I'm going to go ahead and rip this open. Nice clean rip. It looks like a beef gravy. I see pieces of bamboo shoot, water chestnut, and the beef strips are kind of short. Is what one looks like. There is CR in the house. Thanks for dropping in all the way from Canada. Angry Blacksmith is here. Looks like I'm caught up on who has come in. Anyway, speaking of foreign MRE, I have been plugging the site. And every once in a while, I'll check to see if that corned beef hash brown bag is still on there. That is my favorite brown bag MRE. And so far, that is my favorite MRE out of all of them that I've had. And I have, the last time I looked, it was on the site. So if you're wanting to check out a piece of Ration history with a main that no doubt was a big hit in its day, that one would be the one to get. I have had it twice, and I keep resisting the urge to get another one because I want someone else to experience that goodness. At foreignmre.com, just as their YouTube channel name. There's a piece of water chestnut. It held its crunch. See, that little thing right there should be a piece of bamboo shoot, I'm guessing. Yep. They are not crunchy, but they're still firm. But so far, I can't pick out any other vegetables in here besides the water chestnut and a bamboo shoot. Yeah, so they may not have a whole lot now, but they have gotten in a few more of the DAF rations, like the one I reviewed recently. That was a salmon paella. I have the salmon stew, and they were both sold as a pair. And because I liked the salmon one so much when I had the red line version, I went ahead and got the black one, the black line version. Oh, they're pretty much the same. The components are the same. I think they're just labeled for a specific end user. I suppose if I really wanted to, I could have, instead of opening up the peanut butter and the jelly, I could have, I can break off a part of it. The wheat snack bread. And dip it in the sauce. But again, a dish like this, it screams for rice. That's your typical cocoa mix. And this applesauce, it's it's dark because it has raspberry in it. And I can definitely smell and taste the raspberry. So it's very prominent in that applesauce. But as it is, this main is not too bad. It would be nice to have a few more different veggies in here besides the bamboo shoot and the water chestnut. Hugo Homestead is in the house. Thanks for dropping in. But I do like it. But it tastes more like a beef gravy than a real Asian mix because I'm not tasting any Asian seasonings in here. And if there's soy sauce, I don't know. I'm actually gonna see. This is a long list of ingredients in this thing. Yeah, it's a grill flavor. Like you might find in, say, like a barbecue seasoning. It says oyster flavored sauce. But that's about the middle of the ingredients list. There's garlic, there's onion, a slight hint of lime. But there's a chicken broth in here. So that kind of tones the beef flavor down a bit. It looks like there's a bit of bell pepper. That red bit is a bit of bell pepper. So a bit of veggie other than the bamboo shoot and the water chestnut. But the beef itself is not excessively processed. So you can get the texture of a pulled beef instead of a ground beef. And I had this piece of the wheat snack bread just sitting in the sauce, trying to soak it up. This is the cran grape. It's the sugar-free version. So it mixes up faster than if they had used real sugar in it. But that slight aftertaste of the artificial sweetener, that's there. Yeah, it is it's nice sized pieces of meat, which is really good. And a few decent sized pieces of the water chestnut. That long strip is a piece of bamboo shoot. And now it's next to a wider piece of bamboo shoot. A couple of bits of red bell pepper. But it would be nice to have some additional veggies in there, like a green beans or corn or carrots, anything like that. And of course, it would be awesome if this had a separate pouch of rice that you could put down and then pour this on top of the rice. But as I said earlier, if I ever get this menu again, I'm going to bust out some instant rice. I'm going to make that up. Then I'll put that down and then pour this on top of that. Storms Radio and Meowers is in the house. Thanks for dropping in. You're looking at 2018 production date. US MRE menu 22. Actually got this and the other MRE that I will review in a few weeks from Minotaur Trading Company. They were in the mystery box that I ordered in the summer, but because of some issues that happened, it got delayed and I didn't get this until last month. And I'm still waiting on my Valhalla survival order. And that is being checked on. But in the meantime, I still have another USMRE. That's beef ravioli. I have the other DAF salmon ration. And then I have 2 halal MREs. So those there will get me into December. And then when I get the 2 that I ordered from Valhalla Survival, they are freeze-dried mains, so I'm very interested in seeing what those are like. I'm going to take a bite of this snack bread with the grape jelly on it. I opened the wrong end, but this is chunky peanut butter. You don't see that as often as you see the smooth peanut butter. in U.S. rations. It's a cran grape drink mix. Well, I like the chunky peanut butter because it's something a little bit different out of a ration than the smooth peanut butter. But either way, the peanut butter is decent peanut butter. Canadian IMPs, their peanut butter and jelly is packed here in the U.S. and then sent up there. And I believe the peanut butter that you get from a British ORP is also packed here in the U.S. and then sent across the pond. These snack breads are always dry. You got to do something to them to make them so that they're a little more enjoyable to eat. Well, I hope that it's not internet issues for anyone tonight. Yeah, the peanut butter is good quality peanut butter. It's packed by a company called Thermopack. They also do the grape jelly. So they must be a condiment supplier. And they get packed up and then sent on to Ameriqual, Zapaco, and Warnick for insertion into the rations. See, that is supposed to be the torch from the Statue of Liberty. So this one is mostly there, but you get the idea of what these sugar cookies are supposed to be like. But as you can see, a lot of them took a hit. This one is a corner of a flag. So there's a stars, a couple of the stripes. So those are a nice cookie to have, but they just don't hold up too well in transit because they get all busted up. But the flavor is still fine. Yeah, that's the issue with these. I don't know if it's the recipe or that they're they're not as sturdy as some sugar cookies that you can either buy in a store or that you would make yourself. Yeah, it basically is, but one thing that I would do if I had an extra of the Chilean berries jam is I would pour that over these cookie pieces and then warm that up in the microwave, and I would have a little bit of a cobbler. So that would be one thing I would do with them. And you can get these mugs and the spork at foreignmre.com. Yeah, that would be an awesome thing to do. It'll make a nice different dessert. When I get those big crackers, which are nothing more than big cookies, that's what I do with those every time I get those two together. And when I open up that other DAF ration, I know it'll have a berries jam and it'll have the big crackers. I'm not sure if that's how your average Chilean soldier or police officer or whoever would be issued one of these rations, if that's how they would do it. Because that berry jam is nothing more than a few bits of berry in syrup. It's not a jam in the sense of this. It's not thick like what we would know as a jam. And this applesauce is baby food consistency, but it's meant to be sucked out of that pouch that I squeezed it out of. It's the same type of pouch that you would find in the First Strike rations. The applesauce, that applesauce that has the maltodextrin added to it. And some of the puddings, they're in that type of retort pouch that you can literally just suck it out of. My AC unit just kicked on, so if you hear it for a while and then it shuts off, that's what it does. Just like a heat pump for your furnace or air conditioner, if you have a central system at home, that's what it does, except I'm right in front of it pretty much. So if you hear it, that's what that is. And yesterday, I switched on the heat function just to see how it would do. But then today, since it got up into the 50s, it got up to 58 degrees Fahrenheit, I switched it back to AC. Because my room temp is 69 Fahrenheit. Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday here, it's supposed to be up into the 70s. And then Friday, when I leave for camp, I check the forecast. It's supposed to be a lot colder than the forecast originally called for. Even yesterday, it's changed since yesterday. Well, easy money. Haven't seen you in a minute. Thanks for dropping in. Looking at menu 22, packed in 2018 by AmeriQual. Kind of miss on the Asian flavor. But the texture is there. The beef is not overly processed, so it's not like you're getting bits of ground beef. It's more like pulled beef. That Asian oyster flavored sauce is so far down in the ingredients list, I wouldn't have known it was there without actually looking. And it also contains yeast extract, so there's basically Vegemite in here. So these are quite salty. It would be nice if it was just a little bit less salty and I could get more of the veggie and the meat flavor, but it's still not bad. It's missing the rice. But getting the water chestnuts and the bamboo shoots in here, yeah, it was a good call. That little red bit is red bell pepper. Yeah, James, it pretty much has. We had some cold snaps. Where a lot of us here had to pretty much put the gardens to bed. So that's pretty much what I did at the end of September, and then I brought a couple plants in. I let my cilantro plant go to seed, so I collected some seeds off of that. And then my little squash didn't get much bigger. So I don't know if it's a gourd, like a decorative gourd, or if it's just a small acorn squash. I have not cut into it yet. I was hoping that maybe I could get some seeds off of it because I only got 4 seeds in the mail from the person who sent them to me, and one of them was broken. So I couldn't even plant that one. I planted the other 3, but only one of them sprouted. And I had a few others, little squashes form, but they were so late in the season, probably because I don't get enough sunlight to actually grow squashes properly. And there's not much for pollinating insects around here. I have never seen a bee here, so I don't know what kind of insects would have gotten in those flowers to pollinate them, or if it was done by the wind. So I lost a few others, but I managed to save that one little squash that's a little bit bigger than a golf ball. But I probably will cut into it. I should do it on camera, just so that all of you can see what it looks like inside when I do cut it open. I've been keeping it in the dark, away from light. So that's probably helping it. This drink is a sugar-free cran grape drink mix. It's one of those that's intended to either go in a 500 ml bottle or a 20-ounce bottle. But my drinking jar holds 13 ounces, and I just go with that. These are the busted up patriotic sugar cookies. You can see they're very thin and they're very light, so they break easily. Yeah, more like cookie pieces. I mean, they're almost soft, like they have absorbed moisture. I don't know if it's too humid in here since I opened that pouch, or they were like that to begin with from 2018 when they were packed. Wow. That same thing happened when he opened up his cheese pizza MRE. He had stuff missing, and then he had 2 accessory packs that had both sugar and Splenda, or a knockoff version of Splenda. But yet, I think in that pizza MRE, there was no coffee, but he got sugar and creamer, plus the Splenda. So someone has been asleep at the switch when it comes to quality control with these packers if they're messing up like that. And I believe both of those MREs that he opened up were out of the same case. Yeah. It wouldn't be surprised if it was either one of those. I mean, it wasn't all that much time in between when he posted those 2 videos of him getting those accessory packs that were lacking a little, or had something in there that shouldn't have been in there. And someone got an MRE that didn't have a spoon. I don't remember who that was. Yeah, or at least given a stern warning to get their act together. And I think someone opened up a Norwegian Arctic field ration that didn't get a coffee. And there was supposed to be a coffee in it. So it doesn't just happen here. Of course, sometimes in accessory packs you'll get a salt and that salt-free seasoning, which I don't mind getting that because I save all those packets. This goes into a bag full of these salt, pepper, seasoning packets that I get out of rations. Same with the gum, I save those. I'm not much of a gum chewer, but I do save them because I figure one of these days I may actually have to chew that gum for one reason or another. Yep, easy money, that's one way of doing it. And speaking of salt packets, one of those that I got out of that salmon paella, that was torn, so that was salt that had leaked all over there. So I only ended up with one sealed up salt packet, and that dropped somewhere, so I don't know where that ended up. So far I haven't seen Pumpkin messing with it. I'm sure it'll turn up sometime. But, you know, I save all these packets either for putting into my camping food bag, or they can be barter items, or for use here at home should I have to get into those. I mean, I do store salt and sugar and other things in larger quantities in those little packets, but those little packets are very handy. All the ones that I've gotten out of the civilian rations, like ones from Minotaur, or I've gotten out of lunch boxes somewhere that I don't use because I get those in a little accessory kit. Like Wednesday, I have a track meeting, and they wanted us to order box lunches from Palmer's instead of just individual items off their main menu. So we picked our box lunch choices. So if I get salt and pepper and condiments or whatever, I will not use them. I'll bring them home. And if it includes a full set of utensils, what I do not use, I bring home. So this spoon will go into a bag that has a whole bunch of other spoons in that I save for my emergency stash. So if I have to cut down on my water use by a huge amount, instead of washing this or whatever other utensil I'm using out of my kitchen, I would have this to fall back on. I just grabbed it at the same time. And then it'll go into the trash. And then I would use my paper plates and bowls and my disposable cups. Yep, easy money, that's the way to do it. So those Daft sporks, I had like one or two already. I put one of them in my bug out bag. And the one I recently got is going to go into my get home bag. Now I have a third that can go in with my camping utensils. Or I can throw it into an emergency food bucket that I put together that I have not put the smack down on the lid yet because I can fit a couple more things in there. I may throw one of those sporks in there. Unless I choose to put a longer spoon like this to get into the pouches, because I put Mountain House entrees, I put some Minotaur entrees in there, have some others in there that are deeper. Now I need a longer spoon. I may stick one of these in that bucket, but I still may throw a Daft spork in there. Yeah, I wanted to do that in the event that I have to haul dupa away from here. Adding a little grape jelly to the peanut butter on what's left of my snack bread. But if I have to haul dupa, I could grab that bucket because it's light, since I put freeze-dried and dehydrated stuff in there, plus drink mixes, and of course there's coffee in there. There has to be coffee. So I could throw my bug out bag on my back. I could grab that bucket and I can go wherever I need to go. Plus I have some food in my bug out bag, and I keep food in my get home bag as well. Because if for some reason the buses get yanked off the streets, or I have to abandon a bus, and I'm not able to catch a ride from anybody, I would start walking home. And if it's going to take me more than a day to walk home or wherever I need to go, I have that bag to fall back on. Yep, that's why I put those pouches in there because I can put the water in it. I could stir it, close it up, let it sit. And even if I'm not able to boil water, I would still do it because it may take longer to rehydrate, but it could still be done. And with the breakfast items, you don't necessarily have to have hot water anyway. But I have those fuel tabs that when you light those, they don't make noise they make very, very little noise when they burn. And because the flame is so small, you can be discreet about it. And if you do it in a sheltered area, no one would even know because you're not generating smoke like you would if you were burning wood or charcoal or other biomass. And of course, the canister stoves would make a whole lot of noise. Now, they're great for camping or for, if you keep it in your car or your vehicle. I don't have a vehicle, so I obviously can't do that, but an alcohol stove or a solid fuel, that's my first choice, and I can light it with a lighter or matches. A couple of years ago, someone in a Facebook group said that, because I don't drive, I don't need a get-home bag. But then I reminded that person that I travel by bus. What if I have to abandon a bus? What if I'm doing something at the mosque and I can't take a bus home? Or say I'm at Walmart and something happens and I can't bum a ride, or it's too unsafe to bum a ride, I would start walking. I keep a map. In fact, I got 2 maps in my get-home bag. One is a regular street map, and the other is a bus route map. So I have those. And if I'm on a road that I normally travel by bus, and I pass by places that I have seen numerous times, that would make it easier. And if I have to dip off that road and go to one a block or 2 away, I can still get to where I'm going. So I reminded that person, that's why I have a get-home bag, is because I want to be prepared in case I have to abandon a bus. Yep. That's what I reminded that person. This is in a prepper group. Just for the sheer heck of it. I'm throwing some of these smaller cookie bits into the applesauce. I've had to get into it a few times to get someone out of a jam. Although I carry a pocket knife in my purse everywhere I go, one time when I had to use a laundromat because we didn't have the laundry rooms finished in this building yet. This is during the major part of the rental that went on here. I was at a laundromat, and the knife I was carrying in my purse didn't have a really fine pointed blade, say like this one. But I keep one in my get home bag that's a little bit bigger than one of these. And so a guy had just bought a new bike lock, and he needed to cut the zips that were holding it to the card that it was attached to at the factory. So I said, I got something I can give you that will help you do that. So I get into my get home bag, pulled out my Ontario Rat 1 folding knife, which is longer than that one that I just showed you. I said, here, use this. This will do the job. So he took it, he used it, and then he brought it back to me and thanked me. And I'm hoping that maybe after that he decided that he should carry a pocket knife on him so that he can get himself out of a jam next time, or maybe help someone else out. These cookies are literally disintegrating in the applesauce. Yeah, I have a Swiss Army knife, but it's one of very, very small ones. I don't have a bigger one. I would like to get one, but this is out of focus. There we go, that's better. But that will happen in the future. I don't feel the need to get one. I have others that I can use, plus I have multi-tools. And during Ramadan, when I'm opening boxes of supplies, say I need to open up a box that contains, you can get these 500 or 600 count utensil boxes at Sam's Club or Costco. They're taped closed. So, or if I'm opening boxes that contain 6 containers of dates, or no, 12 containers of dates that are in the tubs that are that bag around, but we get them by the case, I'll be opening those up, or I would be opening up these boxes that contain like 1,000 8-ounce foam cups. That's that's when I pull out the pocket knife and just go to it and get it done. So that's why I keep one in my purse. Plus I have that Ontario wrap one in my get home bag that's easily accessible, but yet it's hidden. I know where it's at. It can't be seen, but I can easily get to it when I need to. Now, of course, I will be taking a bushcraft knife to camp with me. I will have a folding knife in my pocket. And then I have an Opinel number 8. That is strictly for food prep. That's the only thing that one does is food prep and camp. Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah, I have a Leatherman Super Tool 200 that was a gift, and then I bought a Leatherman Micro that has scissors where the pliers would normally be. And then I have a couple of Gerber multi-tools, and then I have a cheap crap one that is in my rod bag. I have a small one that actually came in the same lot as Leatherman Micra. It was in an eBay lot that was labeled as TSA confiscated items, so I got a couple of knives out of there. But the multi-tools were what I was after, and I saw that Leatherman Micra, and I got a good deal on that lot. So that in itself paid for the Leatherman Micra, and the rest was just gravy. Well, easy money. If you know someone who has a metal detector, you can get that person to roam the area with you. And you can start scanning the ground and see if you can find it. And that, especially if it's a model that is no longer in production, that would be a little bit harder to replace. You'd have to find it on a secondary market like eBay. Yeah, you do. And I have picked up some pretty good deals. And I look at things and I think, I would like to have that, but then they ding you on the shipping. Nope, not doing that. But that Polish shooter's ration that I got last year, the listing was for what's called the off-road ration. That's what I really wanted. But the seller sent me a shooter's ration and I never did get any answer as to why it was switched or what can be done about it. But I no longer see those on eBay. So I don't know if it was just a substitution or if it was a bait and switch. But anyway, that was still an enjoyable ration. It had very good meat in it. I have never had anything like that. The bushcraft knife that I do have, it's one that was made by a YouTuber who does it as a hobby, and then he sold them through a site called Colorado Bushcraft. And that thing is a beefy knife. It's got a 90-degree spine so I can rip sparks off a ferro rod. And that thing is done pretty good. And then it didn't come with the sheath, but a guy who is no longer with us, I had him when he was still alive. I sent the knife to him and a payment, and he made a sheath for me. And then off of that same guy, I had won a prize off one of his giveaways, and it was a larger sheath, but it holds a folding saw. And so I opened up that package, and there is an Ozark Trail folding saw, but that thing actually does pretty decent. And he stuck a compass in it. He stuck one of those UST ferro rod striker things that when you close it up, it closes, the two halves meet together, and the ferro rod and the striker are covered when it's closed, but then you pull them apart and you use it. There's enough paracord length so you can use it, and then you just put it back together. So that was all attached to that sheath that has a piece of leather, like a bootlace, on the bottom. So if I needed to tie that bottom end around my leg to secure it, I could do that. But so I have those two in my backpack already. So my backpack has already been packed pretty much for camp this coming weekend. Yeah, I have the 511 Basic and a Cans ball. I went to get a Garberg. That is more as a full tang knife. And that would be one I would like to have. Yeah, I will be shooting video. So this is what Tech calls her Veterans Weekend Camp. It's around Veterans Day. And what she has done when she started doing this, she invites people who have served in the military to come and join her for a weekend camp. And so I did not attend the first few because I figured, I'm not a veteran. So it should be for those that have served. But then last year I went. I have relatives who served, and shortly after that one last year, I found out that a cousin, a second cousin basically, the son of one of my first cousins, is in the Air Force. And then I have another cousin who was in the Air Force for a time, and she worked on the fighter jets down at Eglin Air Base. She was never deployed outside of the U.S. She stayed at that air base and fixed the planes that flew in and out of there. And when she took a test to do that particular job, she scored higher than most of the guys who tested with her that same day. As a kid, she was always fascinated with auto mechanics, so she learned how to work on family vehicles. And when she got good at that, she would fix vehicles for other people. And so when she went into the Air Force, she decided that she was going to be a jet mechanic. Wow. The Liberty Bell that didn't crack. And of course, I have my step-grandfather on my mom's side, who was in infantry during World War II. And so he was in the Army. And then after that, he was in the Air Force during the Vietnam War, and he actually deployed. So he was in Vietnam during that time. And then I do know of another relative who was in the Army, but I don't remember which one it was. I just remember seeing pictures years ago when my sisters and I were helping our mom back in 82 and part of 83 when we were collecting pictures and documents for a family history book that we basically self-published ahead of the only one and only Yijinka reunion that was held in I think in July of 83. And that book is as thick as their survival medicine handbook. Or if you remember phone books, it was as thick as one of those. Of course, back then, all the information that was going back and forth between all the people were that were doing all this collecting of this documents and then making the copies and such. That was all done through the snail mail. There's no internet back then, no faxing. It was all done through the snail mail. Yep, I remember, previous places where I lived, these big plastic wrapped stacks of phone books would just be dropped at the entry of the building, and people would rip into it themselves to get one out. And of course, I would just open up the wrapping wider so it would be easier to people to get the phone books out. Of course, now you don't see that. You don't get phone books. Not many people having landlines. Or if they do, it's through a service like a cable provider or a satellite provider. Yeah, you can call 411 from a cell phone. It still works. But you don't have to do it strictly from a landline. I haven't had a landline in probably like about 10 years. Is when I used to have one. It was bundled with cell service and DirecTV. But although I was paying a bill, a company that I will not mention their name, it just started uncoupling the services, and then it dropped the landline. So I was paying, when they dropped the DirecTV, I just didn't renew it. I just dropped it and said, heck with it. I'm not going to screw with this nonsense. But I needed the internet, so I used it for internet, but the service is shoddy, and they don't want to put fiber optic lines on the east side of Des Moines. I'm putting little bits of grape jelly on cookie pieces. So then I went to the cable company, which is Mediacom. And I get much better service. Now, for a time at my previous residence, I had to go back to that unmentionable company because the line that was for the Mediacom cable was underneath a piece of sidewalk that went to nowhere, and it had been spliced, it had been cut and then just spliced back together, and the management did not want to allow Mediacom to dig that up and run a fresh cable through there from the from under the parking lot to the service box, which is on the outside of the building at the back end of the corner that is only accessible by going through this gate with weeds going up through it. So that's why everybody had bad reception, bad signal through Mediacom, was because of that cable was never dealt with by the property management company. LC is here. Didn't see you sneak in through the cat door. Not much left, but this is 2018, menu 22. Asian style beef strips. Packed by Ameriqual in 2018. Got busted up patriotic sugar cookies left and peanut butter and jelly. But so here, I tried that other company here, but they didn't want to bother with running the wires up into the walls to the phone jacks, which is where you plug your DSL cable into. After it comes out of the modem. So anyway, plus the management at that time for this building didn't want to do it either. But when I had the cable, I had to get new cable run through to my cable jack. But when the workers were doing the reno, they cut the cable. Basically cut me off. And they really didn't care that they did that. But they got a talking to about doing that. So it was one of the construction workers who cut the cable and didn't give a flip about it. Yeah, so others had to come in and redo it. Well, you must have had enough of the white stuff to do that. We've had the cold, but we have not had any of that white stuff come down yet. Yeah, it's not that they lied. They just didn't tell anybody that they cut the cable when they were doing the flooring. Anyway, they had the cables running from the service box, which is on the outside of the building, to the individual apartments. They're not well secured. They're just loosely draped, maybe tacked to the wall in a couple of places. But since the new management took over, they got all those cleaned up, and they're actually tucked right underneath the bottom edge of the siding, and it's better secured, so it doesn't look like a hot mess. Of course, when the outside walls are painted, those cables got painted, but well, that camouflaged them. So they're not so visible. Now these are pieces of cookies. That are, oh, sorry, brief disconnect. Is part of what's called a patriotic sugar cookie, but these do not hold up very well in transit. Out of this whole pack, only one was still intact. Of course, I already ate it. But the rest of these are just little bits. Well, thanks for dropping in, CR. He's up there in Canada. So he is a time zone ahead. Somewhere in Ontario. Because I'm in the central time zone, I'm probably below Alberta, I think it is. The province that's above Minnesota. Thanks for, yeah, Ciara is just kicked out. James, if you're leaving, thanks for dropping in. And I may not be live next Sunday. Again, it all depends on what time I get back from camp, and that will be totally up to my driver. I don't drive, so when I do these trips, I am with someone. So someone has to take me out to these places to camp. Of course, every summer in August, I go on a family trip. And we are already booked for Lake Icaria, which is southwest of here in Iowa. We are booked for not only next year, we booked next year's trip last year. And now this year, we booked for 2025. Or no, 2024. So we are looking to possibly change it up in 2025. Something completely different. But when we were taking a pontoon boat ride in September, my younger nephew could not join us for a family trip because he got the big nasty. So he had to quarantine himself. But anyway, he wanted to make it up. So he and his girlfriend popped for a pontoon boat ride on Saylorville Lake, which is outside of Des Moines. It's a reservoir and it has a dam on it. Yeah, it has a marina and you can rent boats of different types and sizes. So they paid for like a couple hours use of a pontoon boat, which had a canopy, but we kept the canopy down. And it was a real party barge because it had like 12 cup holders or drink holders. and it's one of those you can fish off of. It had a cooler, so if you put ice in there, you could keep your drinks cold or your catch cold. Had a radio in it. So as we were going around the lake, and also, when we were going towards the slip that the boat we used was tied up to, we saw houseboats. And so that kind of got us the idea of renting a houseboat for a week or maybe longer. But maybe not here, but down at Lake Ouachita in Arkansas. So that's going to cost a whole lot more money to do that, but it's now a bucket list item for us. So again, if we do that, that would be 2025. So between now and then, we can kind of flesh that idea out and see if it is something that we could do, and maybe start planning for it if we can go ahead and reserve one for the best time that we can get. Of course, the earlier you reserve something, the better chance of getting the time period that you want. Well, let's see, I just scroll back to Elsie's question. Well, I have a variety of canned meats. I don't stock just one because, after all, variety is the spice of life. I have canned ground beef and canned roast beef from Keystone. I have canned chicken and a little bit of canned turkey from Keystone. I have the Walmart canned roast beef. Then I have other brands of canned chicken, canned tuna, and turkey. I have corned beef. I have halal versions of Spam. I have chicken Vienna sausages. But as far as a canned meat, it would probably be either the chicken or tuna, since that is what I have the most of. But any other, but if it was like canned veggies, I have a variety of canned veggies, so I would just grab a different can every day. There are people who do not like mushrooms and some who cannot eat them. I also have mushrooms. Not a whole lot, but I do have them. But having a variety of canned vegetables, canned fruits, although some of the fruits you have to watch, especially the more acidic ones, the cans do not last as long. Yeah, I enjoy mushrooms too. But I have the single vegetable cans, I have the mixed vegetable cans. So it would just be any one of those. Of course, I have cans of things like the Chef Boyardee, like the spaghetti meatballs, canned soup. So I do have a variety that I can dip into. And of course, I have the usual things like rice and a variety of beans and pastas. And all kinds of spices. If it was a canned vegetable, if I had enough for for probably one can a day for who knows how long, it would probably be the mixed vegetables because I would already be getting a variety. So that would be my canned vegetable pick if I had to do that. Yep. And I was watching a guy over in England use spam for bait. He doesn't eat spam, but he got a can of it and cut it up into small cubes. And he took it with him fishing, and he was catching catfish with it. I have not had any foraged mushrooms because I can't get out where I would find all these by myself. I would have to go with someone to a place where I could find them and not risk them being contaminated by something from the city. Plus, I would need someone with better eyes and more expertise to say, this is one that is edible, or this is one that has to be left alone. Well, it probably depends on what you're after. A catfish will go for anything meaty, or they will go for like dough balls made with cornmeal. But, you know, they're bottom feeder fish usually, although sometimes they might take something that is higher up in the water. But other fish like bass, bluegill, perch, sunfish or trout, it doesn't matter where in the water column their target is, they will go after it. You know, see people using fly rods to go for trout. They're running something that floats on the surface. And because trout like to go for insects that land on the water, these fly lures are good for catching trout. But I've never been to a place where trout are. I've only been to lakes and rivers that have like catfish, bass, bluegill, perch, carp, walleyes, bullheads, which were kind of catfish, sunfish, things like that. Now, there's one mushroom I would love to try. It's called chicken of the woods. And when I've watched some of the AOK foraging and adventures videos, Tech would show these huge things, basically clusters of these chicken of the woods mushrooms that be like that big. And more recently, from summer camp, she has taken out clips of her finding mushrooms, edible mushrooms, and then bringing them back to camp to give to the others who are there to try. She would cook them up in butter and a little salt, and then that's it. And then they would sample those mushrooms. Yeah, mushrooms are good in eggs. Of course, I've only had the typical button mushroom. I think I've had portobello once. But it's been so long I don't remember what it tastes like. But I do know it almost seems like you're eating a piece of meat when you eat a portobello, because before it's cut up, it's a pretty big thing. Like that big around. The smaller version, I think they call a porcini. But I would also like to try chanterelles. There's some other mushrooms that I would also like to try, just haven't yet. I have had morels, though. I do enjoy morels. But I have never been able to find any myself because I just don't have access to the places where they grow. there's a small wooded area along the river that is not all that far from here, but I've never seen mushrooms there. So I don't think it has the right kind of trees there. They're pretty much pine or spruce in that area. Yeah, but I've never seen any trees in that particular area. Plus, it's close to a road. So I would not trust anything that would grow there, even if I could positively identify it without a shadow of a doubt. That's why I don't go foraging for plants, because I don't know what they've been exposed to. I see dandelions in the front yard of my building, but they're too close to the road and the sidewalk. And people go out there with their dogs and they do their business out there. So the only way I could get dandelions would be to get seed and grow them myself. And I have seen dandelion seeds for sale online. There's one mushroom that I have seen in videos from Europe called a parasol. And some of those that these people have shown, they're still edible, would be that big around. Not always, but some of them have been. Yeah, Survival Lily has gone after the parasol mushrooms, and another, she's in Austria, and then in Germany there's a woman, Vanessa Blank, who has 2 channels, one under her name and another one called Wild Woman Bushcraft, and she has gone after the parasols and other edible mushrooms that are found in Germany. And then there's ones in England who have gone after edible mushrooms. And they look pretty interesting, the ones I've seen there. Yeah, it would be interesting to sample some that I have never been able to get access to here. Short of buying them from a specialty store and paying an arm and a leg for them. Yeah, no doubt. But I do have a foraging book that is specific for Iowa that I won off of one of tax giveaways, and then she also gave me 2 jars of her homemade kimchi. And I think I ripped into one of those jars that night. I just had to eat it, and I think I ate the whole jar. It was a pint jar. And then I saved one and ate one probably another week or 2 later. But that was some really good kimchi that I got from her. And because she lives in the area, she just brought it over to me instead of having to pay the postage and have it take probably a week to get from one part of Des Moines to another. You know how postal service can be. Yeah, I have never had truffle, so I don't know what it's like. Anything that is very expensive to buy, if I don't have an absolute need for it, I just don't bother. Yeah, shiitake is another one that I would love to try. I have seen them in a farmer's market, but I didn't buy them. They were pretty expensive. But I would like to try shiitakes. And I was watching another video, and this guy was collecting puffballs. But you have to collect the puffball when they're still white before they turn brown and literally explode their spores. But if you collect the puffball at the right time, it looks like you're cutting into a giant marshmallow, as in the color. I've never heard of abalone mushrooms. I know about abalone, the shellfish. Of course, I've never had either, really. I never had abalone from the water. Yeah, never heard of those. There's one called turkey tail, or I think it's like pheasant tail or something. It's a shell fungus that grows on a tree, and there's one of those that you can eat if you take it at the right time. I do have chaga. I have, I think, 2 pieces of dried chaga. But I have not done with it anything with those because, you know, I don't know, I just haven't. But you can do 2 things with the chaga. You can take bits of it and make a medicinal drink out of it, or you can use it in the place of a piece of char cloth or charred punk wood, and you can drop some sparks on it to create an ember, and then you can put that into a tinder bundle and then blow it into a flame to start a fire. So those are the 2 things that you can do with chaga. And that's a fungus that grows on birch trees. And the birch that's right in front of my apartment has 2 of them, but they're so high up, I don't dare try to get at them. Plus, I don't have the right equipment. I don't have the means to get up to what would be the height of the roof line of my building to get at those chagas. but I can see them there. Yep. I like Brussels sprouts. I don't eat them very often. I tried to grow them, but that was a bust. The plant didn't give me anything other than leaves and a woody stem and compost. So I just put the leaves into my compost bucket. Oh, the roots went in there too. But the woody parts, the woodiest parts of the stem, and this thing just shot up. I don't know if it was something else that grew in there instead of the Brussels sprout plant or what it was, but it was just shooting up like a tree. And so I figured, you know what? I'm not going to let this whole thing go to waste. I cut that super long stem up, let it dry out hard like sticks, so now they're kindling. So that's what happened to that thing. So I don't think I'm going to try that again next year. I'll probably stick mostly to herbs and any shade-loving plant, as even marigolds didn't pop. I replanted the seeds twice and nothing. Well, if okra is a shade-loving plant, then yeah, I'll try it. Yeah, my deck faces north, so I get a little bit of sun in the morning, even less in the winter, in the cooler months, and a little bit of sun just at sunset. Yeah, I could have had some bad seed, or there was something, you know, I used a mixture of potting, organic potting soil, and my own compost. I don't bother with buying fertilizers. I do add eggshells to my compost. And then when I brought home some seafood from a family meal we had a couple years ago, I had mussels in it. So after I ate the mussels, I cleaned off the shells with just water, so got rid of all of the residue from the meat. And I busted those up and put them in my compost. I attempted tomato, but those seeds didn't do anything either. And I tried growing a hot pepper. Those seeds didn't do anything. And I waited till almost May to plant my seeds. I don't start seeds indoors because I just don't have the space. Plus, I have a very active cat that could possibly make a mess out of the whole thing, and I would just lose all that work. So I choose to wait till it's warm enough to plant outside. And so that's what I do. And last year some of my greens that did pretty well did not do so well this year. So So I don't know if it's because they don't they didn't get enough sun, or if it was just too hot and dry, even though I was watering basically every day. Well, I hope you got some when you had the chance. Yep. If you have the means to get something that you need, uh, it's best to get it then. Of course, that's not always possible, but you just have to wait for the next opportunity, especially, if you can get it at a halfway decent price. Yeah, that would suck. Yeah, I see some people who are doing, they want to sell some rations or create their own mystery boxes to sell. I'd see those posts, but nope, can't buy one yet. And then by the time I'm ready, they're gone. So I just figured, oh well. But speaking of rations, the next time I'm live, I'm gonna pull one of those other halal MREs. So it'll either be the lentil stew with lamb, or the sag chole, or no, or jalfrezi with lamb. It's jalfrezi with lamb, or lentil stew with lamb. That's what I have. I like that new one. That was a different lamb stew with vegetables. I really liked that one. That was a 2020 pack, or 21, I think it was. So one of them that I have left is in the older style bag was like this, but a clear bag with the peelable seal. That was from, I think, up until like 2017 or 2018 or something like that. Then they switched over to the type of bag that AmeriQual uses as their inner bag for their regular MREs. But has all the printing like the old style halal MRE bags had. So I'm not sure what the year is on that one. Sapaco does those halal ones. I couldn't find a date on it. So I may open that one up next time I'm live. If it's not next week, it'll be the week after. Well, if you get the right MRE, you might get a packet of barbecue sauce in it. Since all I have left are my drinks, I'm probably just going to go ahead and call this one done. Cran grape. But I'll finish these off. Just suck it right out of the package, because that's what I do. But anyway, I do want to thank you all for watching, especially those who have come in here for the first time. Again, thanks to Art Nina for an MRE for dropping that super chat earlier. That's much appreciated. But if I don't do a live next Sunday, I will have some other videos up, because I will be doing some grocery shopping before next week's trip. And I may get a video up about that. I may show a video of something else that I've recently picked up. Some may know about it already, but others may not. But it's something that I have been wanting to get, and I finally did, and it was at a good price. But anyway, I'll talk about that separately. But until then, thanks for watching, and catch you on the flip side.